actor basically since my kindergarten class did a Christmas pageant and I got my first laugh from an audience. And I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. But fortunately or unfortunately, my father in particular was very against it. My kindergarten class did a Christmas pageant and he was very against it and was pretty insistent that I become a lawyer, a doctor, own my own business, that kind of thing, because, which he is correct, as you already said, acting is a very uncertain career and not everyone makes it, whatever their definition is of that term, much less earns enough to pay their bills. So that is what happened with my life. So I did go to law school. I did eventually get a job, not at a law firm. I worked for a legal publishing company. And if you've ever watched TV shows and there's a law firm and there's books behind them, 99% chance the books came from that company, which was West Publishing. And I worked for their online research products called Westlaw for 13 years. And I wanted a 9-to-5 job, whereas you probably know a lot of attorneys work very long hours so that then I'd still have time to take acting classes and things like that on the side. So I always did do acting on the side. It wasn't like I had an epiphany when I turned, 45. I didn't wake up on my 45th birthday and be like, oh, I want to be an actor. I was kind of laying the groundwork all along. I had taken a lot of classes. I had done some things. I had done extra work, which isn't always really acting, but at least it gives you experience being on sets with a lot of famous people so you can see what they do. And I did turn around when I was 45 and I just thought, my life is half over. Just do the math. Not many people live to 90. Even if you do, there's no guarantee you'll be in good health when you retire, whenever that is. And acting, surprisingly, can be a very stressful and very energy requiring job. You can be on sets 12, 14 hours a day. And even though you're not actually acting all the time, it's just a long day. And if you don't have a lot of stamina or, you might not be up for that. So I finally decided as my 46th birthday approached, someday, or maybe it was my 45th or 46th, someday had to be now. And so I did then quit that job and focus on acting and doing writing back then full time. But I've since given up most of the writing because that was not going as well, believe it or not, as my acting career. So.
Wow, that's amazing. So it sounds like it was always a passionate dream of yours, kind of in the back of your head. You were kind of doing the practical stuff, but then you had this hobby, this interest, this
I call it an avocation.
An avocation, gotcha. And so had you gotten any actual gigs or anything before you left your law job?
Well, I had done theater all through college and even law school and even community theater. So I had done some of that. I sang in a choir. I had, like I said, I'd been an extra maybe 60, 70 times. I'd done a couple small films. I did get my first commercial while I had my regular job. And I was able to use vacation days to pursue acting work. But part of the problem with a real job is you can't always be available for auditions. And even though now, because of COVID, so many are self-taped, so you might not have a 5-minute time slot where you had to be somewhere, there still are quite a few that are on Zoom. And you don't get the chance to say to your agent, oh, I can't do 140, I can only do 340. You have to be there most of the time when they tell you, and you don't have much flexibility. So it is important to be available. And by not having a day job, I was available.
Yeah. So, and it sounds like you were really had your fingers in a lot of pies. Like you weren't just saying, I'm doing voiceover and that's going to be my living. I mean, you were really like a Renaissance woman of acting and both voice and in person and theater and commercials. And so did you just have an interest in all of it? Were you kind of like casting a wide net to see what stuck, or like, how did you approach that?
It's sort of a mix of that. I don't do as much theater now or even pre-COVID, in part because even some of the best theaters here in Chicago don't pay enough, in my opinion, for the time commitment it would require. And I'm certainly not yet, or maybe ever, at that upper echelon where you're at the upper levels of equity where you do make more money. So I focused on voiceover, which I now do. Even before COVID, I did most of my work from home. I did have my first in studio job in a long time this year, but still I do most of my voiceover from home. So that did require learning a technical understanding of audio engineering and sound so that I would have a good quality sound to submit to clients. I have clients all over the world. So, but that's always a good thing, because mostly voiceover can be done as long as you meet the client's deadline. Mostly I can do it whenever I want. So if I had to do it, if I by chance was on set all day or had an audition at 3 somewhere like downtown, I could then come home and do my voiceover.
Yeah,
So
a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, so that gave me a lot more flexibility. And so that's very helpful because you don't always guarantee when you'll get auditions, and you certainly can't guarantee when you'll get any bookings. So to have 2 possible streams of revenue can be very helpful. And there's so many genres of voiceover that you or one can pick a couple to focus on, or can try to cast a wide net there as well. I do multiple genres, but not all the genres.
Like tell me what you mean by genres of voiceover.
Well, there's commercials, of course, but that's highly competitive. And most of the good commercials are through agents, but there could be now hundreds of people auditioning because everybody's auditioning from home. The days of going into audition for most things voiceover wise are long. And again, this was before COVID too. I can't even remember when I had an audition in person for voiceover. So commercials, but I do e-learning a lot, which is corporate education. And I also do medical narration, which is a specified subset of that, which I'm pretty good at because I can pronounce all the terms and make them sound normal. I've also done a lot of technical narrations. I love acronyms. I think they're fun. And there can be what I call alphabet soup voiceovers, where it'll be like the CST 500 is the QVC of the YZQ, so just so many technical terms. And engineering I've done. So I do mostly e-learning now and medical narration with some commercials sprinkled in. But you do need a demo and clips in each of those categories. So most people will go straight for commercial, which is fine because there is a lot of opportunity, but you have to have a demo for that. I have an e-learning demo. I also do a lot of phone messaging. I'm sorry, he can't take your call right now. Please leave a message after the tone, so I do a lot of that.
But who hires somebody to do that? That's so interesting.
There's companies that do that, or, some people pursue individual businesses on their own and offer to record theirs. But I work with a hybrid company that just sends me work.
That's so you don't have an agent, or it's not?
I do. Oh, yes, of course I do. Oh, yes.
Okay.
You can't, especially with TV, you can't get into the big rooms without an agent. On rare occasion, they might need some kind of real person, like something really highly focused that they can't find through a talent agency. But most every professional actor has at least one agent. I have a Chicago agent, and I also have one in Atlanta in the Southeast.
Wow, interesting. So, and is that the hardest part? Oftentimes with authors, I'll hear it's actually harder getting an agent than actually getting it, booked. Or in your case,
it can be, there's plenty of independent projects that I book on my own, and some of those I'll run through an agent, but some of them, even if I think they're a nice independent film, if they don't really pay a lot, I might or might not, or I'll ask them if they want to have it run through them. But to be in the big wigs, you do have to have an agent, and they don't just take anybody. They're looking at your resume, and it's that catch-22 of how do I get a resume if I don't have an agent?
Right.
and they're also looking now at self-tapes, which they wouldn't do before because the technology was not there. But now that everybody can self-tape very well with a cell phone even, they'll probably, if they're interested, they also will look at your headshot. So you need a good headshot. You can't just send in mostly like a Polaroid. So you need to have some tools and some preparation. They might also look to see where you took classes. And if they don't recognize any of the names, like in Chicago in particular, it's important to have some improv training. So if they don't see the major improv schools like Second City or what used to be Improv Olympic and is coming back again, yay, things like that. Or Comedy Sports on your resume. It's not Improv Olympic anymore. That's right. It's IO, formerly Improv Olympic. If they don't see those on your resume or acting schools that they know, and they don't like your headshot, then they won't even call you in. And if they call you in, they would ask you probably to do a self-tape before they would meet with you. And if they don't like that, if your self-tape technology, like your sound, your audio isn't up to par, and of course your performance, or if they don't need anybody of whatever they think is your type, or is your type, but they think too, on their roster, if they don't need anyone, they won't call you in either.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like it's hard to break into this industry. I'll just pause right now to say, I know we've got a few people watching, so maybe you've got questions for Ruth, please add them in the chat and we'll make sure to get them answered. Okay. So anyway, tell me,
But here's a story I have to tell because most people don't know this. Even with a great agent, it can be very hard to get into, we'll just use Hamilton's term, the room where it happens. Yes. So let's just say a She-Hulk room, casting director room. Yes. A lot of people don't know, first you need a talent agent, but then you also have to impress the casting directors because they're the ones that actually call the people into audition, whether it be in person, or I did just have a in-person audition and an in-person callback this week at a casting director's office. So that's really fun. But mostly in Chicago and other markets now, especially, it's self-tape. But to even get that far, there has to be there's a breakdown for every TV show episode and for commercials too. And the breakdowns list all the characters and they list them by type. So if there aren't female presenting, if they're not my age zone, if they're not the right ethnicity, and some will say all ethnicities. So it could be whatever, but when auditions were in person, one of the biggest casting directors here for the TV shows would only call in 4 to 5 people for every role.
Wow. So that's not a lot.
It's not a lot. So first, it has to be a role you could conceivably do.
Yeah.
Then they have to think of you for that in one of your top, the top 4 or 5. Now, it's my understanding it might be double that or even triple for self-tape. But still, that could only be maybe 15, 20 people getting an opportunity.
A lot of people vying for those spots.
Right. Then you also have to be available for whatever the callback, if there's a director session is what it's called for TV, but we'll just use generic callback. And then for whatever the shoot dates are, plus now there's also maybe multiple COVID tests. So you have to be available for the testing day. It's usually not, fortunately, like you don't have to get a COVID test at 2:15. They'll have hours, but you mostly have to go where they tell you. And that might not be conveniently located for you.
Wow.
And then there's a wardrobe fitting, which may or may not be related to the day of your filming. So you have to be available or clear your schedule for all those things. And sometimes you are on after you've had an audition and a callback, you're on what's known as first refusal, which means you're on the short list or being considered, but they might not have actually picked you. And so you have to hold all those days open just in case.
Wow. That's
now,
great.
wait, I also skipped a step. So let's say I skipped a step. Let's say you're one of the 15 or 20 to get an audition. You do your self-tape and you turn it in by the deadline.
But you say self-tape, are they giving you a script to read?
They give you a script.
Okay.
But the bigger the project, if it's a super big project, I've done a bunch of auditions for projects that are so big that you don't get the actual script because they're so afraid that somebody will share it. So you get a representation of what that character might be.
Yeah.
You know, like if you are auditioning for a doctor, chances are it'll be a doctor script. It won't be a mom feeding her kids, you know, but it's not the exact verbiage of what you would say. But anyway, they send you a script and they expect you basically to light yourself, sound yourself, find a reader to read the other parts, record the whole thing, edit it down, because you probably have to do multiple takes, or maybe multiple scenes. And there are places for sure in Chicago and other markets too, where you can now go back in person or pay people to help you. But then you also have to coordinate with that person, be sure you can get to their facility and then record within the turnaround time frame.
Yeah.
Which could be 24 hours, or it could be several days, or it could be a week. But
wow,
wait, the step I skipped was really important. So then you've done your self-tape. You're one of the top 20, let's just say, that were picked to audition. You've done your self-tape. In my understanding and experience, and I've heard several casting directors say this, they very rarely send everyone in to the next level. And you don't know if you made the cut or not.
Wow.
I've heard that there are some directors, producers, whoever is in charge of calling the shots, say they want to see everybody that has been selected, but some people might get 40%, 50%.
That's amazing. So tell us, what's the story of how you got She-Hulk?
Well, I do have a representation in Atlanta, and that's where She-Hulk was filmed. Oh. And just miraculously, I have had some opportunities to be in some, I'll just call them, to me, they're big rooms, but I just haven't nailed it or been what they chose in the end. They might have gone, who knows what, you know, they don't like my hair. Sometimes it does come down to that. It could be just the look of your presentation or the way you approached it, because they don't often give you a lot of direction, which is why I do prefer being in the room, because, or when you have a director session with the director there, you do your thing. And then for sure, they're going to, unless you totally suck, which is probably rare at my level anyway. But unless you totally suck and they really don't want to see anything more, they're going to give you direction, because they want to see, can you take direction, even if it's not what they really are going to want in the end. Like, let's say you come in with all this energy, like, I'll just make this up. Here's my cell phone. You know, they're going to try to have you do something different.
Right.
Just to see if you can, and do it convincingly, because they might change their mind when you're on set. So they could you be more subdued, but they don't always say 3% more subdued or 40%, you know, they'll just be more subdued, you know. So are you then going to come in, here's myself, you know, so you have to decide on the fly how to interpret their direction.
Yeah.
So all that. And then wait, there's more.
And there's more.
And again, this is my understanding, but I've also heard casting directors say this, but every casting director is different. Every production can be different. So your mileage might vary, but often the top few, maybe 2 or 3, will be put on what this hold or first refusal thing. And then they'll get sent on to the next level. Now, for many TV shows, even if you're just going to say something like, right this way, sir. Right? That doesn't seem like too hard of a thing to do. Seem like you need
to boil the ocean for that one.
Right. In my understanding and experience, that approval goes all the way up the network.
Wow.
So you're not just getting approved by that episode's director, or even maybe it can go high, 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 high. And I've been on some director sessions over Zoom where there's so many people there and you don't know who they are, but all these people, they don't introduce themselves. Like, they'll never say, I'm just making this up. Hi, I'm Fred. I'm the executive producer. They don't tell you. The director might introduce themselves or they might not. And so you see all these faces there. You don't know who they are, but yet all these people are finding it important enough to be there watching it. And it's always recorded, because probably more people are going to watch it.
Right. So what was that like when you, first of all, you must have been so excited. I mean, has this been your biggest break when you got this one?
Well, it's my highest profile booking to date for sure. Like I said, I even had some audition, maybe 2. Oh, I've definitely had 2 auditions for Stranger Things, maybe 3. I have a chart, but I'd have to go back and, I mean, I've auditioned for House of Cards. I auditioned for that movie Hidden Figures, the one, a really good part in that. I've auditioned for MacGyver, and that one was kind of a bummer because the character, had my name and was very similar to my age and type, and didn't get that. So yeah, so there's been a lot of pretty good opportunities,
Yeah.
but it's just a question of whatever, sticks, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's true. And what would you say to somebody who, wants to get started, maybe even with voiceover? Is it just like, do you need a certain
Take a
kind of
class.
voice or like diction, and like you need to learn all the certain things?
I would just say find a reputable school wherever you are and take a beginning class just to see if you even like everything that it entails. Because even me, who did know something about the business, I didn't realize I was going to have to be recording and editing and producing all my own auditions.
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
and this was again, even before COVID.
Yeah.
And then how much work I would actually have to do from home.
Yeah.
So you might or might not, you might be sort of drawn in by the perceived glamour, but not realize how much work it takes to really do the work. And then if you do want to be on camera, I would definitely say try to be an extra in something that's filming in your town, because you'll see what a day is like and how long they can be. I've had friends who thought it was super exciting, but then they see how much hurry up and wait there is.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it might not be for everybody.
Right.
And the
No,
persistence of the constant, like this week alone, I've had, I meant to write it down. I've had 3 commercial auditions, an in-person audition and a callback for something else, a web series audition for 2 different roles and callbacks for both of those roles. And I don't know if I'm going to get any of it.
right. And I imagine you have to get used to, a certain level of rejection. I mean, you got to develop a thick skin.
Yeah. Oh, it's, but at some point you just get over it and don't call it rejection. It's just, they chose someone else. They chose someone older, younger,
You weren't the right fit. Right.
In our midlife age, it's a very weird crossroads, because there's plenty of things for 40s, at least in the breakdowns, but a lot of people don't know what to do with 50s, and they don't know what to do even with some 60s. I don't need to reveal my exact age, but let's just say I get an awful lot of grandmother auditions, haven't booked a single one.
Yeah, you wouldn't seem to me to fit the role of the grandmother, but who knows?
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
But that's actually why I started letting some of my gray come out, because it is a crossroads. And for some of the major casting sites that you have to be on with, once you have an agent, or that you can sometimes self-submit for certain things, they want, you have to put your actual age. It's one thing if someone sees my headshot, like let's just say, that's my headshot. They can decide to themselves, am I 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever. They can think I'm 30 if they choose, and call me in. They can think I'm 70 and call me in. But when some of the searches are only by birthday, I will not come up. So it's sometimes hard to know what they're going to consider you for, but I will come up for my, and sometimes they will broaden it. They might do, 60 to 70 or 55 to 70.
Yeah.
But if they do it the other way, you might not. It's sort of like searching for houses or online dating. You got to cut off somewhere. You're going to get too many.
Right. Yeah. You got to have some criteria.
Yeah. So it can be, because I'm not quite in my opinion, and in what I see in the room, when I'm in the room, I'm not in the older, but I'm certainly really not in the mom anymore. So there's sort of an in between.
Right. We actually have one of our viewers, Jen, asking a few questions. She's also in Chicago, and she knows that you're in Chicago. So she says, where do you start to be an extra? And is there a best school for classes that you recommend in Chicago?
Yes. I personally have liked both Vagabond School of the Arts and Acting Studio Chicago and The Forge. Those are my personal favorites. Your mileage may vary. To be an extra is super easy to start learning about it. You have to follow the Facebook pages of and go to the websites of the main extras casting companies. And I can also later, maybe we could put this in the comments, but one of the main ones is Extraordinary Casting. Extraordinary, get it?
Mhm.
extraordinary casting. Another one is 4-star casting, and they do a lot of the bigger things in town. And there's also a page for like Chicago Fire Extras, Chicago Med Extras,
Oh,
and you have to follow them. And then the thing is, one of the things about acting that people wouldn't really think about is you have to follow the rule to the letter. And it starts with being an extra. So if they give you rules for submissions and things to do, and you don't do it right, or
like
for
what kind
example,
of rule might it be?
submit these kind of pictures and only these kind of pictures. And people send other pictures, or you can't see your face, or you're wearing sunglasses, or you're wearing a hat. Or similar to if you're moving or submitting even for an independent film and they want to self-tape, but they can't see you or hear you, or your background is distracting. This is not my self-taping background. This is my website logo. Or for some of the auditions I do, your videotapes must only be a certain size, like a certain number of megabytes, because of
Right.
the volume and
Yes.
downloading speed. And if you don't know how to get that or have
Right.
somebody do that and you submit the wrong thing, they might not even open it.
Yeah, there's a lot of technology. So are some of the classes that you take, are they showing you the how to the business aspect of this too?
Some do, not quite as much. That's why, in my experience, I haven't looked for that kind of class lately, because I, of course, don't know it all, but I feel like I know a lot of it. But there are also a lot of acting coaches. I sometimes even offer beginning acting coaches, because so many people ask me, how do you break in? And I just couldn't spend hours helping people without starting to charge like a baseline
Right.
fee.
Yeah.
But I will say this, I will make this offer that if anybody does want beginning acting coaching, I'll give you my friends and family rate if you mention this YouTube live, Helen's.
Okay, I love that. This is on the fly. We hadn't even planned this.
I will do that, but I just had to, because so many people, like I feel bad about this one. I'm in some acting Facebook groups, and somebody reached out to me, after the She-Hulk thing. So many people were like, how did you do it? How did you do it?
Right.
And I just feel that my time is valuable. The times that I've spent learning all these things was valuable.
Yes,
The classes I've spent for, and I just couldn't, if my best friend asked, okay, fine, or my sister, but you got to draw the line, like even friends of friends or people that are in a Facebook group you're in, I just personally cannot, if I was invited to do a workshop, okay, maybe that's different kind of a thing, but I just can't spill or give for free every single thing that worked for me.
No, your time is valuable, and you've developed an expertise based on your experience.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But there's still, like you said, it's been literally, some weeks you're here like, what? I booked She-Hulk, and then other weeks you're like, I haven't had an audition. I can't even get an independent film audition this week, so you wonder, am I now irrelevant? Have people forgotten me? And there just is a lot to do just to even maintain, I think, maintain your website, maintain current clips of your work. It's a lot to stay on top of, but I really like it, or I wouldn't do it. And I personally love auditioning. I'd rather be in the room than self-tape, but I'll do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like it takes a lot of perseverance. It's like, you got to keep at it. And, I guess, you had already booked a bunch of things before you left.
It's nothing big.
But nothing big. And you just,
a good commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did book a couple of good commercials while I had my real, a couple national commercials.
Yeah.
So I guess those are big. I don't mean to put them down, but, most of my film work and things didn't really come until I was available for more things. But I did do some national commercials when I had my job.
It sounds like it'd be very hard to have a full-time job and have the availability that they require for you to, so you can't really have it both ways.
Well, that's hard too. And that's why you hear tales and truthfuls. That's not even a thing to say. You hear truthfuls, we'll make it a thing. You hear the truth of so many actors being waiters, because they can get their shifts and things covered more easily.
Right.
When I had my real job, most of my clients that I was very close with knew what I did, and they would say, and most of my clients, some of the bigger ones, I had to visit every week. And they would say to me, you know what, if you don't want to come sometime, you just let me know and we won't tell anybody. But that made me kind of uncomfortable to do, so I never like called in sick, which
Yeah.
maybe some people are comfortable doing once in a blue
Right.
moon.
Right.
You know, and some things I just didn't feel I could cancel because a lot of acting opportunities are very last minute. So that was
Yeah.
my choice. Maybe that was not wise, you know, maybe once or twice a year, once a
Yeah.
year,
Right.
I could have taken a different client up on their offer, you know, and just bailed without getting in trouble, but I didn't.
Well, our time is wrapping up, but I cannot let you go before you tell us what you did on America's Funniest People and America's Got Talent. You know,
Yes,
you teed it up. So,
I am an improvisational speed talker. And so on America's Funniest People, they were looking for, it was a new show at the time, and they had come to Daily Plaza, where I happened to be auditioning along with other people to be Planter's Funniest Nut.
oh,
So I had made up a speed talking thing. It was not improvisational. It was made up about the history of the peanut and like all things peanutty, because I thought that would be funny. But America's Funniest People was finding that some of the people could not unpeanut their routines, but I could because I could just make up something on the spot. So they videotaped me live in Daily Plaza, and I got to be on America's Funniest People.
oh, that's
And
hilarious.
then I love AGT. I'm a super fan. I just think it's amazing. And what it and shows like The Voice have done for struggling professionals' careers, just some name recognition. I honestly didn't think I could win, but if I actually even just got on the show and I could put as seen on America, that was my goal, to put as seen on America's Got Talent. But so I was recommended, so I didn't have to wait in line, which was great. I skipped the line and went directly to a first round audition. That went great. I had a second round audition, like, you know, you go up levels of producers and people who can make decisions, and that was great. And then I was selected to be, after a long application process, on the live show. And long story short, since we're running out of time, let's just say, unfortunately, that did not go as well as planned, and it never aired, and I never made it any farther.
Oh, well, but you got pretty high up there.
I did. There were only, I think, not even, I want to say 400 people at that
Yeah.
left at that stage, maybe fewer.
For a
So yeah,
national show. That's amazing.
well, yeah, because I mean, you know, it was Howie Mandel, Heidi Klum, like those
Yeah.
judges at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Mel B.
Amazing. Yeah. So before one last thing, I know you have a message, an empowering message for everybody. So I don't want to,
Yes,
I don't
I do.
want to stop taping until you give your empowering message to us all.
I just want everyone midlife to know that if there's something you've been wanting to do, whatever it is, maybe start thinking not about I'll do it someday, but make someday now. Say someday is now, and start taking whatever small steps you can take to pursue your dream or your passion, whatever it is. It's not too late, but it will take some work probably, and it will take some time. So just take your first step.
Love it. Beautiful. Thank you so much. I
Hope this was
really
helpful.
appreciate it. Yeah, oh, it's super helpful. We've got comments here, great information. Thank you. Really appreciate you joining us today and sharing so much of your hard won and fought experience. And just love how bold you've been and just kind of putting yourself out there. And,
Well,
you know,
why
like you said,
not?
yeah,
What do
why
you,
not?
you know,
Yes,
unless you're one of those people who honestly believes that any rejection will literally crush you and you'll never get up off the floor.
right, right.
I've been on the floor, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, can you pick yourself up and just say, I'm going to try again? And, you know, and you, if you do move forward and you get some bookings along the way and then bigger bookings, it does help give you that shot in the arm to keep going.
Yeah, love it. So I think this is such a great message and such an empowering message for us all. It's never too late and someday is now. Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. Awesome.
Bye,
And
everyone.
congratulations to you and all your success. And thank you to those of you who joined us live today. And again, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when new videos are released. And you'll also know that way when we go live and you can join in the conversation in real time. So until then, be well and stay safe, everybody. And thank you again to Ruth.